Y'all, this is Mr. Zach filming our second pre-recorded lesson, and today I am reviewing the arrival of the Europeans, the disruptors who came and changed everything. So we know that in 1492 Columbus sails the ocean blue, but you might not know that it takes a while to explore and actually colonize. In South Carolina, 1526, so almost 30 years later, the first settlement occurs. Really, before that, there is a lot of colonization going on, but it's happening in South America. So Pizarro fights in Peru and Cortez in Mexico, and they start discovering gold. So the Spanish aren't done yet. So in 1526, they settle San Miguel de Gualdape. But the Yamasee Indians, we believe, are hostile, and actually the slaves they had taken joined these natives, forcing them to relocate and losing in the battle. And within 2 months, they're actually back out of there. They're sailing home. They are just totally done. Fast forward 40 years, and the French are finally ready to come. And John Ribault, a French Huguenot, you should remember that name, he leads an expedition, but like the Spanish before him, there is poor leadership, there is lack of supplies, they don't really get along well with the Indians, they think they're there to convert them, and they end up failing, and they also go home. I think it's like 25 guys end up going back home on a ship and surviving, and their story of survival is very rough. But settlement continues, and the Spanish are still looking to expand their territory north because the Spanish control most of South America, and they already have St. Augustine to the south. Settle where Charles Fort was, and they built San Felipe or Santa Elena. It survives for a little bit longer. This one's 10 years, but again, they're attacked by natives, it's burned down, and it is destroyed. For a long while, settlement only occurs north of South Carolina. We see the settlement of Virginia, we see Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, really your 13 colonies. And this is a different group of people. This is the English. And the English start looking further south, and they say, you know what, we need some protection against the Spanish in the south. We need to mark more territory because the French have started taking the north in Canada and Quebec particularly. And so we need to give ourselves more of a claim on this new land. And in 1670, they come and they establish Albemarle Point, which later becomes Charlestown. They also moved a little bit further south because they realized the growing season, the plantations would be more successful. And lastly, because it was seen as a link to their colonies in the Caribbean. So Bermuda is the big one, but there's also Cuba, which is really Spanish, but there are plenty of Caribbean colonies. They're successful mostly because of their relationship to the Native Americans, but they're also successful because they had been able to learn from the failures of others. They had learned from the failure of the Spanish and the French and been able to figure out what are the things that we need to be successful with this new colony. You don't just sit around for 100 years doing nothing. You sit around for 100 years colonizing other areas and learning. Now, interestingly enough, the settlers that came from a variety of different regions. And this is one of the reasons that Charleston is known as the Holy City. You have French Huguenots, you have Swiss Calvinists, you have Irish Catholics, you have German Lutherans, and individuals from Scotland. You have people of every religion coming over and practicing freely. You also have individuals who are not practicing any religion and are forced over, and they're not in any way free. Of course, we're talking about our slaves. And this is primarily because of who was in control. If you look at Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, these were groups who were persecuted, and they go and they start their own colony with the idea that we're going to create a religious colony that is based around our religion. South Carolina, on the other hand, was created by wealthy investors known as the Lords Proprietors. And these were individuals who had given help to Charles II and helped him reclaim his throne from Oliver Cromwell, you should have learned about last year. And they said, as long as you're willing to pay us rent, as long as you're willing to pay us money, you can settle here. We really don't care. Now, this situation lasts for a while. We'll talk about why it changes. There is some information here. And so here is our nice map of Carolina as it is being settled and as it is being discovered. And we'll see how this changes. And the last things are about the headright method. We wanted to encourage immigration. And what that means was, it's really spelled out in B. I'll let you read that. And this leads to really an increase in the plantation system and an increase in the population of English settlers, which also lead to a more successful idea. We're going to be continuing to talk about colonization for about a week or so. There's some readings that you're going to be assigned, and there's going to be actually a couple activities that we're going to do, as well as some videos that we'll watch. So history should be getting a little bit more interesting and definitely a little bit more intense. Keep on learning. I'll talk to you shortly.